Welcome back. We're talking with Brad Zuby, the Brandon football head coach, and this is week two of Brandon Replay. And first of all, Brad, I appreciate you spending some time. I want to start off with the craziest part of this. You're supposed to go on the road to Flint Southwestern and play at Atwood Stadium.
Yeah.
And sometime Friday morning, somebody calls and goes, "Oops!" Kind of explain the story.
Yeah, it was funny, honestly, it was your conversation. Were you and I talking about Atwood Stadium last week?
Yes.
I think after we signed off or something, we were talking for a little while. And I was just, going around Wikipedia doing a little bit of just history on Atwood Stadium. I was going to share some stuff with the boys, and I'm reading through it, and it's talking about how it's not Flushing, Flint Powers. It's their home stadium and how they play there. And it was talking about the Vehicle City Classic, which is that week one showcase, which we played in a few years ago. And it wasn't really talking much about the Flint public schools. And it just dawned on me that I said, you know what, I'm just gonna fire a text over to their coach, who's Andre Weathers is their coach over there. And he played strong safety at Michigan. He couldn't be a nicer guy. And he really loves those kids. And he is working his tail off over there at Flint. And he just said, geez, coach, no, I'm sorry. We're scheduled to play at the old Northwestern High School at Houston Field. So then we got to talking, and we brought our ads in, and we found out that Northwestern Stadium was going through some major renovations and might not have been quite ready for a week two kickoff. And we just offered, hey, why don't we move this game over to Brandon back here, and you guys can be the home team, and we'll figure it out from there. And we decided, just for probably player safety and readiness, to go for week two. It'd be better to play at our place. So it worked out for everybody.
It works out. But what is it as a coach? You get your kids prepared as a bus ride. You have a real system of sort of schedules and timing and the rest of it. That's got to just throw you off like nobody's business.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a funky week. We had a day that we had that storm roll through, and we got practice, moved around, and things were happening all week, and so it was just kind of a funky week for us, anyways. But we have a brand new AD also at our school, Mr. Johnson, Jesse, and it was a first hurdle for him and I to try to figure out something together on the fly after doing it with Chris for so many years. So Jesse and I kind of had a good time just getting everything on the fly, and it was a good little test for him for a home game to be thrown on the spot there. So heck, you got to roll with things in this profession. We pulled it off.
We should point out that the visiting school, in this case, we should have been the home school, Flint Southwestern, actually ended up with the gate as well.
Yeah, we figured out. We wanted to be fair to them and make sure it was all equitable. So we figured it out and made it work for everybody. So
somebody sent me a picture of Northwestern's field in terms of the grass. It has not been cut all summer. Did you know that?
I know that they were in the process of cutting it and lining it, I think, Friday afternoon. So, it was probably best that we figured it out for this week, and hopefully those kids get some home games in. They certainly deserve it. That was, all our kids could say after that game was how nice the Flint kids were. And, it was a very clean football game. There wasn't a ton of nothing really after the whistle type of stuff, and just really good sportsmanship from both teams. So, it was a nice night in those regards.
So let's start the game itself. And the first question I got to ask you is that do you worry about scoring that many points and sort of get a reputation of?
No,
you got the offense. Good.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that in the past too. That stuff is kind of it's the way the points are being scored. Are we throwing the ball around? Are we doing it with our we had 15 different kids touch the football. We had eight different kids carry the ball. We had 7 different pass catchers. Our biggest stat line was 98 yards receiving. Nobody rushed for more than 60 yards. So we got a lot of kids, a lot of playing time, and so no, I think if you're pedal to the metal, you're trying to score 100 points on somebody, and you have your starters in the whole time. But sometimes things happen. A turnover, a deep in a zone, or a punt return, and things like you can't tell the kids to stop playing either. So it's just I think it's it was just sometimes the points pile up.
Do you notice as a coach the next week when everybody plays and you've had that kind of opportunity where everybody's had a chance to play in front of mom and dad and they've had the great weekend and you're now 2-0, do you find practice, especially for the guys that are not starting, do you find that to be a better atmosphere?
We've definitely noticed this week. A couple of my coaches have been texting me after practice and say, hey, we were pretty sharp today. Today was a pretty good day out there. So I think that probably does play into it, because it gives those kids a little bit of glimmer of say, hey, here's what I can do when I get on the field. So and get an opportunity. We try like heck to get as many kids on the field as we can, and just sometimes the game times up differently. But yeah.
the experience of going through those 5 days. If you can imagine being in a 9-game season and having and having single digit wins or losses for an entire season and basically almost never get on the field, it doesn't help the program, certainly.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you had a good game. Is there any specific? You kind of dominated pretty much everything.
Yeah, there's still, going back to week one, some of the stuff from week one into week two, just being young on defense and just giving up some things that we worked on all week that we just kind of were trying to hammer home that, we were still, obviously it's a different game plan for a different offense and a different skill set. And Flint had a couple of real dynamic kids. I don't know if you caught the game. They had a real bad injury to one of their running backs. So we've been trying to keep in contact with them to get updates on the young man. And it was a pretty rough ankle injury. I think that kind of took the wind out of both teams for a while. We went and started the halftime early with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. And then we all came back out, and played kind of a bridge version of the end of the second quarter and then bled into the, third quarter. But that was a rough injury to go through. I've been around a long time and that was one of the tougher ones to witness. So, I think the kids all had to regroup a little bit after that on both sides, but to their credit, everybody handled it pretty well and got through it. And, we heard the young man's been through surgery now, so we're going to keep tabs on him and see how he's doing. But yeah, it was a good football game. I think our like I said, our offense is clicking now. We've scored 49 points and 61 points 2 weeks in a row now. So the offense is firing. It's just a matter of getting young kids in the right spot and cleaning up some mistakes from week to week on defense to play a complete game. I don't think we played a complete game yet. So, and now we're into league play.
The idea that you improve from, the old cliche, you improve from first to second week. That's the biggest improvement in a game season. When you play a team at this level, does that diminish that a little bit? Because, you don't necessarily see the competitiveness across the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, it can if you let it, but I think, we really are trying to just measure ourselves against ourselves and what we look like from week to week and what,
Okay.
how we're managing our assignments from week to week and how the kids are handling what their job is, and we evaluate that way more than, what's going on across from us.
Before I get to Lake Fenton, any standouts from the Southwestern game? Anything that gave you some?
Yeah, Drew Hickmott's got back-to-back weeks with 4 touchdowns. So he's got 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks now. And Drew's playing at the level we expected him to play at. He had a punt return for a score that, it looked like about 8 different Flint defenders bounced off of him. And he's just a bigger, stronger, faster version of himself. And he was a pretty darn good version of himself last year. So Drew's doing well. Our quarterback, Lance, is starting to settle in and get his reads down right. And it was, like I said, it's really nice when 8 different kids carry the ball. We have 2 freshman slots that both scored touchdowns on our jet sweep plays, which is nice to see 2 freshmen on varsity getting in the end zone. That's exciting for them. So, the kids are coming around. So, it was a really good team performance. Let's see everybody get some time.
A technical question for quarterbacks. How often, if you're talking about your quarterback being able to read, does he get to a third read, or are you happy with a first or second read as long as he's doing it well?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of this RPO stuff right now too. So that's what we're really his reads focusing on that and just making sure he's getting the right key on his RPO and seeing, what who his primary read is on that play. And then does he give it or throw it or keep it type of thing. So, that's really what we're looking at in our deeper passing game. Yeah, he's got a primary, but we certainly want him to know where his options are.
I asked that question because sometimes you'll get into a conversation with a baseball dad, and his son's the pitcher, and he'll tell you he has 7 or 8, 9 pitches. And he's got, and the kid's got a baby curve and a straight ball. And I say that because major league pitchers have at best 3 pitches.
Right.
So, if a kid in high school, if a guy's telling me that he's, he gets to his 4th and 5th read, I tend to think, well, maybe you're somewhat exaggerating.
We've got a pretty good offensive coaching staff here. And, we put the kids in position that, he should know what his read is right off the get-go. He's not really, checking off 4 or 5 different defenders. No, that's usually not the case. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So you got 2 weeks behind you. You're averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 points a game, and Lake Fenton is coming to town, or are you going on the road?
No, they're coming here.
Okay. So that's a plus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about Lake Fenton, and is that the biggest hurdle this early?
So yeah, it's definitely a big one out the gate for both of us. We are 2-0, but they're 0-2 right now. But I think they're a darn good 0-2, and they lost to a 2-0 Gaylord team week 1, and they lost to a 2-0 Schwartz Creek team last week. And 2 very physical football games. They played 2 extremely physical games. So, I think they are a very dangerous, 0-2 team. And we've had to talk to the kids all week about, hey, non-league games are out of the way now. From here on out, through week 8 now, it's all league competition. and it's a clean slate. Everyone's 0 wins, 0 losses, and it's a new season now. We've got 2 nice wins in the back pocket against schools that are bigger than us, and that's going to help our playoff positioning down the road. If we get ourselves back in, which is our intention. But yeah, right now all the focus is on Lake Fenton, and obviously we split with them last year. We had a wild game with them last year, week 3, that went back and forth. The game that Dylan Dickens ran, picked up 450 yards of all-purpose offense for us when our quarterback went down. And then, we were pretty well beat up when we saw them again in the playoffs. And, they handled us pretty well in the playoffs. But, a lot of kids on our team still have a bad taste in their mouth from that game, and they want to get that off their minds a little bit. So it'll be fun.
All right. You've obviously been watching film over the last week to kind of get an idea what they're doing. Are they where you thought they would be, above where you thought they'd be, or below where you thought they'd be?
They're where I thought they would be as far as an execution standpoint. I know, they graduated a 3-year starter at quarterback, so they've got a new signal caller, and he's been their JV quarterback the last couple of years. And they have and he handles the ball very well. He's got a good arm. They have a returning running back who was one of the top backs in the whole area last year. And he's back, and he's a heck of a runner. His last name is Storm. He's a good back. They've got a nice group of skilled players. I think they're breaking a lot of new linemen on offense. And I think a lot of new starters and a lot of kids that were, I think they're juniors and first-year starters, but they get after it. They very high motors on their team. They get off the ball really well, both sides of the ball. So, I think, to look at them and say they're an 0-2 team would be, disrespectful. And they have a outstanding coaching staff. Marty Borski does a great job at Lake Fenton, and he has his kids ready to play all the time. So it's going to be a game.
Big, fast. What's their physical?
Yeah, they're not as big as they were in the past. They're not as big as they were last year, but they're still very physical. They kind of look like we do. We're never usually the biggest team on the field either, so we match up pretty well with each other from a size perspective. So they just move really well, and they don't do a ton. He doesn't try to do a lot, but they're very good at what they do.
Talk briefly about what they do schematically, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, offensively, they look a little bit similar to some of the stuff we do. They run a lot of, they love to run, their jet sweep play, and then they love to run their counter tray back off the jet, and then they've got some passing game built in off of that motion, and then they have a good, just a drop back passing game that is, pretty well advanced, I think, for high school football, and they get the ball around to their guys. A lot of crossing patterns. So they do a good job defensively. It's different from week to week what you see, because high school offense is so different. They've played us in a 4-4 the last couple of years. We think we'll see some of that stuff too. They want to match up and try to match our wings up and do that kind of stuff. So
what are the keys for you to win?
Keep scoring a lot of points. That's always a key for us.
Well,
right?
obviously.
Yeah.
I'm asking a little more specific is what I'm looking for.
That wasn't specific enough. No, obviously we want to keep moving the football, keep spreading it around, keeping our guys active in the game plan. There's some things that, we put in new wrinkles every week for things we see. So we want to be ready to go for the game, obviously. And defensively, it's really we just have to clean up some of the stuff that, is not normally the way we play. We've got to get just some things cleaned up defensively around the edges, around the perimeter, just slowing things down before they get going on us. But I think it should be a great high school football game between 2 very good high school football teams.
If I'm scheming against you, if I'm looking at film and saying, okay, Brandon's got 2 wins, and would I be surprised at your schemes? Would I be, as an opposing coach, are you a tricky kind of guy?
No, we're not. I don't think we're trying to deceive you very much. But one thing with us is, we only run one formation, and okay. A lot of teams will get very formation specific. And if you see them lined up one way, you're only going to get a couple of plays. When you play us, we have a pretty deep playbook, but every single play is run out of the same formation with the same motion. So it's hard to pin down, exactly what you're getting from us.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of wrinkles thrown at you.
All right. And here's my last question. This is really nothing to do with what we're talking about. The evolution of you mentioned earlier, the RPO. That's kind of, high schools are usually 2 or 3 years behind colleges, and colleges are usually a year or 2 or 3 behind pros. What do you see as the next? Have you had conversations within the coaching community? What the next offensive? It's always defenses catching up, and now defenses are catching up to stop RPOs.
Yeah.
What's the next evolution of football?
Gosh, who knows? Hopefully it's not, put the shoulder pads and helmets away and we're all playing 7-on-7, because I'll have to get out at that point. But, a lot of guys are going to that that quick passing game. And, but for me, this game is what 120 years old at this point, 120 years old, and blocking and tackling is always going to win football games. Right. So, I think whatever the evolution is, the offense gets a head start, the defense catches up, but the teams that are going to win are the teams that can run the ball in the cold weather and the guys that want to block and tackle and get after it. So what's next? Who knows? We'll find out. We'll see if I'm still around for it.
Well, good. Listen, we hope you're 3-0 in this. We get a chance to talk next week, and best of luck against Lake Fenton.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.